The heavyweight card slated for Saturday, April 5th was being touted as heavy impact because of the heavyweights that were going to be on said card. And though it was inspiring to try to get the heavyweights that were originally going to be slated, fate has made a serious turn. And so now 2 out of the 3 have had major change. One, as of yet at this late hour, hasn't been replaced. The other has. Now what has happened is, originally Dillian White, who was supposed to face Joyce, had to pull out with a serious hand injury. Then, just a few days ago, Lawrence Okolie, who was set to face Richard Riaport, had to pull out for an undisclosed injury, leaving us with not much to see going forward. So let's talk about the replacement for White against Joyce. The card will still go on, but it's just interesting that things have moved along the way that they have. We got to see if it's going to be what we would love for heavyweights to be. As this been said in show business, the show must go on. And so we have a situation where Joyce's new opponent on the heavy impact card is going to show up, and it's someone who's familiar. Philippe Hrgovic is going to take the place of Dillian White, which means that this is an opportunity for Joyce, if he is victorious, to get right back into the heavyweight picture. And his manager and handlers have discussed the reason that they selected someone like Hrgovic, because it is important for Joyce at this particular time of his career that he doesn't have to wait very long for another opportunity at one of the high stakes fights in boxing. And his manager was able to state this. As we give a listen to something that he expressed, these are his own words.
Queensbury debut, Queensbury, by the way, has been incredible with Joe. What they've done with him, they've backed him, they've supported him at every turn. He's obviously not on a winning run, to say the least. And Queensbury keep on putting Joe in the big fights. Had a really good chat with Lee Eaton, with Frank Warren, with George Warren. We discussed options, and actually Hrgovic was top of my list.
Well, why?
I think when you go, you've got to be getting a top 10 heavyweight for Joe. Joe Joyce is turning 40 this year. I need to get him back in the mix, back at the top of the table, right? And with the greatest respect, if Joe was to swap this for, say, someone at British level, whoever that may be, it's not really getting Joe back in that mix, is it? We needed someone who was a good enough name that if Joe beats them, they're back in the mix. And Hrgovic, qualified, Joe knows Hrgovic, they've fought before, he's an extremely skilled, top level operator, and Joe's got to show the world his skills and show that he's back.
You see, this is something that I talked about fighters of today and how the culture is shifting. The best fighting the best, stepping right back into the fray. Whether you've won or lost, it's still important that you maintain your competitive edge and spirit. And we know that out of his last 6 fights, Joe has lost 3 times. His most recent loss was in July of 2024 against Derek Chisora. He had a win sandwiched in between his losses with Zhilei Zhang, with Cash Ali. But at least he's trying to come right back and face someone that can put him in a great position. Hrgovic, his last fight was in June of 2024, where he lost in a stoppage to Daniel Dubois, who is now the IBF heavyweight title holder. So you have to understand that this is the opportunity for fighters to be at their best, and they will not be disrespected for dropping losses as long as they're in real competitive fights. People want to see the warriors. People want to see the men who take the challenge and pick up the mantle for why you look up to warriors and spirited fighters. And that makes all the difference in the world. And when you talk about a guy like Joe Joyce, people have talked about him having at one time the greatest chin in boxing and things of that nature. But, no one talked about his resolve as being a man who would just face challenges. His nickname of the Juggernaut is kind of, because he's had some losses, being disrespected now. But Joe Joyce was always a man with a great personality, and he didn't shy away from opportunities. It's just that there were a lot of fighters who didn't want to fight him at a particular time. And when you look at some of the names of whom he has defeated, when you talk about the guys like Bryant Jennings and Bermain Stavern, those were quality fighters. Stavern was a former title holder himself. And don't forget, he gave Daniel Dubois his first loss on his record, and that was back in November of 2020. So, I respect Joe Joyce. I respect what he has brought to the sport of boxing. And yes, he's slowing down, but he still wants to compete. And at the age of 39, his record is 16-3 with 15 KOs. He's been stopped twice, but one of the stoppages was due to his eye closing, and the other, he got caught a great shot by Zhilei Zhang in their rematch. So I mean, it's not like he's been totally battered. He had 2 bad losses, and then his loss to Derek Chisora was a decision loss. And he was floored by a right hand to the head in the 9th round, where Chisora just caught him with a surprise shot. But it happens in the sport of boxing, and it's the heavyweight division. But when you look at the likes of the man who is now stepping in to face him, Philippe Hrgovic, Hrgovic is 32 years of age, and his record of 17-1 with 14 KOs, Hrgovic hasn't faced some of the opposition like Joyce has. And when you think about his bout against Zhilei Zhang, he was down in the first round, but he was down a second time in that fight in a situation where they didn't rule it a knockdown. So, you know, Hrgovic could have suffered a loss at that time, and that fight was in August of 2022. But he went on to take on a couple of soft touches, not being that active, blaming it on personal circumstances and everything. But when he took on Daniel Dubois, the whole promotion leading up to that fight, he talked about how he had beaten Dubois up in sparring in the gym. And it was very unfortunate for Hrgovic because based on gym work, he was thinking that he had the number of Dubois already, and he went into the fight overconfident. And Daniel Dubois came into the fight motivated. The fight took place in June of 2024, and Hrgovic hasn't fought since. It'll almost be a year when he gets back in against Joe Joyce. And a motivated Joyce could possibly cause problems for an unfocused Hrgovic. So, and it's the heavyweight division. And we both know that anything can happen with the heavyweights. So with that being said, these men will come together. They're familiar because they fought in some type of a tournament where I forget what that's called, and forgive me because I wasn't following them at that time. But it was kind of like a early pro league where they faced each other early in their careers. Semi-pro amateur kind of deal. But now it's high stakes. And Queensberry, with their fights on now Dazn, we're going to have a lot of access that we didn't have before when we talk about these fighters. And with Frank Warren's heavyweight stable, he's got tons of guys in there that could really bring some entertaining bouts. And I look forward to that. But this is a good fight. And hopefully they can put another bout on the card. But the card right now kind of looks like this will be the main feature. And still to come on that card, whom hasn't fallen out yet, will be the return to the ring of David Adelaide as he takes on Jamie Teshakiva. So we'll see what happens with that. And that'll be for the BBBFC British heavyweight title, which is vacant at the moment. But we were looking for that third heavyweight bout with Lawrence Okoli taking on Richard Rioport. Now, Rioport might still be on the card if they could find a late replacement for him. But who knows? Outside of that, it will be a mix of lightweight battles, super middleweights, and cruiserweights. But we'll see. But let me know what you think about this. Do you think that Joe Joyce still has enough to deal with the likes of Philippe Hrgovic? Leave comments and let's discuss. This is Stormy B-Man. Shout out to the mighty LDBC and Liberated Perspective, a third eye view of the world. For more content such as this, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. I like Joyce, and I like the challenge, the questionable challenge of Philippe Hrgovic. I just hope that Joyce isn't too far gone where he can't redeem himself, because that's another thing that people like, is when warriors have redemption. What do you think? Peace to everyone out there, and everyone please remain safe.